Well, good morning. Life is short, so launch something that matters. Those are the words I want to leave with you more than probably anything I have to say on the stage today. Life is short, so launch something that truly matters. I'll tell you right now, going on in the entrepreneur culture, there seems to be some narratives that are often confusing. You've probably heard a couple of them. They may go a little bit like, discover your purpose, or pursue your passion, or build the business of your dreams. And I like all of those, and I get the heart and sentiment behind each one of those, but I think they lead to a little bit of tension for some, specifically me. So that's where this talk came from. Many people either err on the side of, okay, if I could pursue how to monetize my passion, then I'll live a life of purpose. But pursuing monetizing of a passion, is that really fulfilling? The other extreme that people tend to lead to is when they look at it and they say, well, if I could just figure out my passion, I'll then live a life of purpose. And so that's kind of the tension, the friction that exists there. And today, what I wanted to talk to you about is a third alternative. It's something that I'm transparently working out over the past year to, about 8 months to a year now, that I really submitted to the Lord and asked Him as I wrestled through these questions, how do I work this out? And so I want to offer a fresh perspective here today. It's called the Inspired Entrepreneur Formula. So the Inspired Entrepreneur Formula is actually not so much a formula, it's more like a recipe, because it's got these 3 core ingredients. And just like any great recipe, when you combine them all together, something really special emerges. And so I'm going to give you those 3 ingredients and see how they apply to you and what you think of them. But before I do, I want you to imagine 3 quick things, really important. Just imagine these 3 quick things. Imagine you discovered a little elixir, magical elixir. We'll call it the perseverance potion, that whenever you were down and out about your dreams, you were able to just take a swig and top state of mind immediately. We need that as entrepreneurs, right? So a little elixir, perseverance potion, we'll call it. The second thing I want you to imagine is you had the ability to read the minds and hearts of your perfect prospect. Not what they say they want, but what they actually feel. And the third thing I want you to imagine, and lastly, is that you had also figured out how to personally train and send out thousands of highly skilled ambassadors with one mission, and that was to rally people around your vision, around your launch. That's a pretty cool toolbox, right? If we could get that. That's at the center of the Inspired Entrepreneur Formula. So let's get into the ingredients. Ingredient number 1. Ingredient number 1 is to love purposefully. Love purposefully. If you look at loving purposefully, I look at that as being able to uncover and really tap into just this endless reserve of perseverance. Perseverance in and of itself, I have found, comes underneath things we care deeply about. Buckets of endless resources are found there. And so, what does this look like? I believe personally that God has uniquely designed each one of you and people all around the world and myself with these compassions for people. It may be for you, it would be underdeveloped nations, or it could be for you an orphanage, or working with the elderly. There's unique and very kind, hardwired, divine compassions that we have. And so I want you to think about what your compassion is. For me, it's the homeless. I have friends who are desensitized to it, but for me, for some reason, I've been hardwired for the homeless. I see a homeless person, and immediately I think, They have no shelter. They have no food. They don't, if you've talked to them, they're one of the loneliest group of people on the planet. Anyway, my heart is really hardwired to be broken for them. So I came up with a project. I wanted to see if I could insert purpose into my launches. And I decided I'm going to go ahead and create something, and I am going to sell it, try to sell it, and I'm going to profit from it, and I'm going to feed one homeless person. That was my personal project. That was my ambition to do it. So what did I do? I created a Christmas tree, weather-beaten wood sign. I know, of all things, a Christmas tree farm. Now, there's something you should know at this point. I know nothing about woodworking at all. I even know less about paint. I am a total disgrace. I should not be allowed in Lowe's, and that's the truth. It's really pathetic. And that took hours of research for me to do. That took a lot of action, and I'm going to say it, perseverance. But you know what kept me ticking through it all, pushing through something I've never done before? Love. Seriously, love. I tapped into what I've been hardwired. I called it my divine DNA. What was it that I was doing this for? Now I had to figure out how to sell this thing, right? So I've got this wood sign created. Now the idea is, how do I sell it? Well, that's where ingredient number 2 comes up, and that's to listen closely to your market. Listen closely to your market. Google is an amazing resource. People will speak there with an unedited purity of truth because they're not afraid to be judged. There's a willingness to be vulnerable. People ask Google anything. Trust me, anything. And you can find out what your market truly wants. For my wood project, I decided, let me figure out, what is a homeless person? How do people look to serve the homeless? What are the organizations that they use? What is it that they're after? And I uncovered that there's not, weather-beaten was my word for it, but the truth is, there's a word for the wood sign. It's called distressed wood. I never heard that before, but it's distressed wood. So I knew how to talk to the market now, and I knew kind of how to target. And the third ingredient, which it leads me to, is to launch precisely. And how do you do that? This is where you train thousands of ambassadors, and you go to bed as you send them out, and they're highly skilled, and they will rally people to your vision. Well, if you don't know how, I'm referring to Facebook ads. But I see Facebook ads very differently. Facebook, 1.65 billion monthly active users. They have the ability to really understand the likes and interests of people like no one ever before. It's the most accurate survey ever created. And now we can laser guide our message in front of people. The problem is people treat them like ads. The biggest problem people make is that they create ads on Facebook ads. I know that sounds weird, but the reality is it's a social platform. You should create messages. Don't create ads, create messages. And put them right in front of your market. So I targeted people who are interested in supporting the homeless and feeding homeless. I targeted people who are interested in those organizations. I targeted people who were interested in Christmas decorations and Christmas tree farms. Yes, there's a group out there that love Christmas tree farms, like me. And then I also targeted, they had to have that component, but they also had to have the component of just being a Christian, where they were supporting different soup kitchens and some philanthropy. Within 24 hours, I had the ability to sell that sign with one advertisement. Now, I'm going to show you that ad in a minute, but just to give you a picture of how much you can precisely target an audience. I've never been accused of being Romeo. You should know that up front. But I'd like to show you an ad I ran to my wife from my home office outside to the indoor. That's my coffee mug, and I wrote an ad that only she could see, asking her for a refill, kindly, for my cup of coffee. It's no Oz. I mean, that's ridiculous. My wife gets it. She's amazing. She loves my experiments, but the idea here is real. You can pinpoint your target market so much. Trust me, if my brother's wife saw that, I'd have been in big trouble. So you need to have control over this. And finally, I just want to show you the ad that I used to sell the sign. If you want to put that up, this is the actual ad. Now, this does not look or smell like an advertisement. Remember, this is only being shown to those people who have shown definitive interest in all three of those demographics, the DNA, as I say. So that's the ad. It's a story. It's expanded, as you can tell, but it lasted 24 hours before it sold. That was a simple project on a small scale. But here's where I'm going with it. I'd like to close up with saying this, that a couple of lessons I learned from this. First of all, profit in and of itself and the pursuit of profit is shallow and leaves me wildly unfulfilled. But when you insert some of that divine DNA, that compassion that you've been hardwired to, into your why, into what you do, you can do business and you can serve the world. And so I'll leave you with a question, and that is this. What would the world look like if entrepreneurs just like you and I actually embrace this? What would that look like? Life is short, so launch something that matters. Thank you very much.